Okay, so with ears and ear cleaning in general, that's something that we do a lot after swimming. And so that's something that Moab is not a super fan of right now. As soon as he sees the ear cleaner bottle, he gets a little mildly stressed about it. He may move away, and I don't really want that to be a pattern or continue. And so we're gonna do some things kind of daily to help him like that experience a little bit more and make it so that it's not as scary to him and actually may even be exciting and fun for him to do. So some ear cleaning things that I usually have a flush handy. That's something that I'm gonna put, just in their ears and squeeze, rub around a little bit and let them shake out. It has a drying agent. That's something where I see him kind of moving away. He's not a super fan of it. So that's something that we'll talk about a little bit. And I usually like to practice with something like a cotton swab. Start off with it just dry, and we'll practice a little bit with that and how I teach them to tolerate that as well. Okay, so to do some of these practices, I like them to have a chin rest and for them to be pretty comfortable with a second hand coming in. So you can find those videos on the website too by looking up chin rest. But to start off with that, I wanted them to be comfortable with me touching their ears. And so I will just start with having them in the chin rest, touching with or messing with one of the ears, and then rewarding for that. Yes. If he's staying in that chin rest position and letting me mess with his ear, yes, I'm gonna say yes and reward with a treat afterwards. I also, for any grooming cooperative care stuff, tend to like to use more than kibble unless you have a dog that's really, really motivated by kibble, just because a lot of the times dogs don't super like a lot of these behaviors. And so I want to make sure it's really well worth their time to make it so that they really like doing this with me. So to start with an ear cleaner, flush, or any sort of medication, I literally will just start with this behind my back. And all I'm gonna do is every time I bring it out, I'm gonna reward him. So I'm gonna bring it out, reward, put it back behind my back. I'm gonna do that multiple times until either A, the dog stops running away from me if they already have sort of a bad connotation to it, or I'm just gonna do it until I feel like the dog is pretty excited when I bring it out. Then you can go to the next step. The next step I'm gonna do is to be adding his chin rest into this. So I'm gonna chin rest, yes, bring it out, and then reward him for that. Just make it so that while he's in this position, yes, the presence of the ear flush cleaner medication means good things, and so that he kind of stays in that position that he's in. Yes, good boy. Then you can start to get a little bit closer once they feel pretty constant with this, right? I'm gonna maybe move it over here. Yes, good boy. Closer to where the ears are to make it so that it's a little bit more mimicking what I actually need to do. Yes, good boy. Then you can start to touch the ears with the bottle. So maybe we're touching, yes. Just gonna start with that. Good boy. Then I might I'm gonna do this and flip his ear so that it's ready for me to go in with that bottle cleaner. And then I'm gonna touch the inside of the ear if he stays in the chin rest. So he's just looking. Good. Yes. And right there, he's kind of doing a little bit of a lean away, which means he's not really super comfortable with that. So I'm going to wait for that to go away before I progress to the next step. Otherwise, we're just going to set him up for failure because he's going to be kind of uncomfortable with that step, which means he's definitely going to be uncomfortable with what comes after that. And so if he lifts his head up, then I'm just stopping what I'm doing. I'm going to put this back behind my back. I'm not going to follow his hand around or follow his head around. I'm going to wait for him to offer it to put it back again. Good boy. And then I'm going to try to do something, yes, a little bit easier than whatever my last repetition was, where he popped up from that chin rest. Good boy. Nice. Good job. Once you get to the point where you can, do a chin rest, we can get here, we can touch his ear, then you can start to kind of actually do a little bit of playing with the ear. So I'm going to use my finger first because he's most comfortable with that. And I'm going to stick my finger in his ear canal. Yes, good boy. And just get him really used to that before I start to do it with the tip of the bottle or medication. That way he's getting used to the feeling of it being paired with treats. You know, things in his ear means a good thing versus things in his ear is uncomfortable and he doesn't like it. Make sure that we practice with both sides. Good, thank you. Nice. Good boy. If he's leaning back, he leaned away from my hand. I'm gonna wait and maybe I'll just touch. Good boy. That way we're ending on a good note, right? I want to make sure he's comfortable with this. And so if he moves away, we're just gonna, yes, make it easier again. And I'm gonna probably make it easier for the next few repetitions until I feel like he's comfortable, then progress to the next step. Now we're gonna try to do the ear up, and I'm gonna flip the bottle. Yes, good boy. Because this is what it's gonna look like when it goes in his ear, right? So we're gonna practice some of that. He just got a little hesitant. He doesn't really want to put his head in my hand. Good boy. Yes. And so he's hearing the sound of the liquid in here. And so I might just work, see how that's making him uncomfortable, right? He's getting up, he's moving away. He's like, oh, that makes me feel a little bit scared. So I'm just going to practice with pairing that sound with something good happening for him. So as soon as, and that was a shake off of stress. Good boy. He's still hanging around though. He's still interested in what the treats are. He's just like, oh, I'm not sure about that. So we're just going to practice me flipping this bottle over and pairing that with treats. Yes. Yes. And he's leaning away, so I might do it a little bit further away to start with from his ears. Yes. And so I'm just making the bottle make that sound. Yes. Rewarding, and then putting it away. Yes. I'm going to do it with my other hand. Yes. Yes. Dropped it. Yes. Yes. And so I'm going to take a long time to get him acclimated to this. I'm not going to rush it where, you know, if we go swimming again and I need to use this, I'm going to spread something with a bunch of peanut butter or wet food. I'm going to have someone else kind of distract him so that I can get it done, because I don't want him to develop an ear infection. But I'm not going to use these techniques of trying to get him used to it and then use it before he's ready to do it, before I feel like he's going to handle that really well. I'm going to wait for that to happen. And so if he's not ready and you need it to be done, like, you know, if you're working on this with your dog and they get an ear infection, that's going to be something where you're going to go much more towards just distraction techniques. So giving them a lot to think about, where it's not just their ears, and trying to get it done and as over with as quickly as possible. And then continuing to work on this step so that they feel comfortable with what's going on. That's a good boy. Thank you. You know, my hands are flapping all over the place, aren't they? Can we do this one? Thanks. Nice job. To get them used to, you know, having their ears cleaned and like wiping out with one of these, you do the same thing. So get them used to this and this coming towards them. Yes, good boy. First starting with just the movement of it towards them, then towards their ear, then touching, then like going inside the ear. Yes, good boy. And then doing an actual sort of like in the ear. And a lot of the time, some dogs that are afraid of the bottle, I'll just put some of this on the little pad and use it to squeeze into their ears so that they're not as worried about the bottle if you've done a lot more work with the pad. You can also just get them used to the smell. So if I were to pop this open and just put it on here, I want the smell to mean good things, right? Yeah, good boy. That way they're not afraid of as soon as the ear cleaner comes out and they can smell it. Or they smell it on this thing if you're used to practicing with a dry one. So if he just sniffs it, we're going to reward that. That's good. I like it. Really, really baby steps with all of these processes, and just make sure that the thing that you want them to like is being paired with food after. It's not, I'm going to feed them and then do this to them, because then they're going to start to associate the food with something bad. I want them to associate this with food happening.